So I'm Dimitar Kazakov. I'm an associate professor at the Department of Computer Science at the University of York, and that's York in the United Kingdom. There's another York University in Canada, but that's not ours. So I am a member of the Artificial Intelligence group there since the group was created in 1999. And this is where I do most of my research. I cooperate with other people in various places, but my base camp, my main place of work is the University of York in the United Kingdom. So I'm going to interpret that question a bit more broadly. When you say industry, it could be the industry as in outside academia, but the skill that I have in mind is important in both places, and it's a bit difficult to limit oneself to a single skill or a single quality, if you want. So I will probably mention a couple. I think a researcher needs to be curious. They need to have curiosity. By definition, they will be researching rather than learning, things that other people have found. So they need to be curious. They need to look in every little corner of the problem and try to see whether there is a way to solve it, or also whether there is an interesting challenge, an interesting question, which can trigger another iteration of the same cycle of finding problems, then trying to find solutions, then identifying new problems, and so on. So curiosity is, I believe, essential, but in a sense, it is a self-selective process. Nobody would, probably attempt to follow a research career if they didn't have that in them. So that is a quality that I believe most of our colleagues come with when they start on the journey towards becoming an independent researcher. I also think that a researcher needs to be meticulous. They need to do things really well. They need to be systematic because once we've identified the problem, we need to try to solve it. We need to try to indeed identify where exactly is the main challenge. And that requires also patience. It is very, very challenging to actually keep oneself a little bit back and not jump after our first intuition, after the first hint of what might prove a good solution, because there is the danger that you try something quickly in the middle of the night, you don't keep notes of exactly what you've done. You get some results which you may even find satisfactory or excellent, and then you don't remember exactly how you achieved that solution. So we need to be systematic in the search for solutions to make sure that we have explored the possibilities that are there. And we need to be patient because, as I said, not being able to reproduce what one does really invalidates the achievement. And I would also add to this that we need to be honest. First, when we try to solve a problem, we come up with an idea, and we need to find out whether that idea is a good one. And it would be probably a lie if we don't admit that we would much rather find a good solution to the problem rather than say, yes, I tried this out and it didn't work. But we have to be honest, and we also need to respect this in others. So if we identify that someone has tried to solve a problem and they followed a sensible lead, even if that didn't take us to the results we expected, it is a valuable piece of information. And if they share it with us, That means we don't have to repeat and waste our time in repeating that attempt. So negative results are very important, and we need to respect this in others when they share their disappointments, if you want, because that saves us some time. So honesty, I believe, is very important, because there is always the temptation to try to interpret the results in a way that flatters our own intuition. And this is perfectly okay when there is a room for different interpretations. But the moment we realize that we have eliminated all the alternatives, if the result is the result is what it is, and we need to report that. So that's I believe really important in a researcher. This is really interesting, because I believe chasing is probably not the best word, but lacking a better one, chasing the maximum impact is of course something that is an obvious attempt, and it should be expected really, that we will try to find a good way to spend our time and try to find answers that help everybody else, not just or many other people, not just our own curiosity. And there is a trade-off. I believe there is a balancing game here, because what may seem interesting to us may not seem so useful to pretty much anybody else. And we don't have to go very far back in time to see that, for instance, people working in the area of computer science and artificial intelligence, those people who were working on neural networks. I mean, when the idea first emerged, let's say when it was explored in the 60s and maybe early 70s, it looked phenomenally promising, and then very quickly people realized that it has its own limitations, and then there was a period of time when that idea didn't look very promising at all, because there were some strong limitations that were identified, yet people kept working on this. And then finally, in the second half of the 80s, again, some theoretical results showed that neural networks can be used as a universal approximator. And then all of a sudden, there was another wave of excitement. And that wave of excitement wouldn't have been there if people had abandoned the idea, the first time around, and said, oh, well, we can't take this any further, because, well, clearly there is a limit to what we need to do. So somebody's curiosity kept them working on that. And again, the mid-90s, or maybe even as late as 10-12 years ago, a lot of the problems that we do solve now, primarily through neural networks and deep learning, people thought that could never be solved in this way. And I myself must admit that I was ready to almost pity, some of the people who persisted in trying to follow this purely connectionist approach. And I was thinking, well, we know that structured data is very hard to model in this way. And again, the impact there wasn't obvious, but curiosity kept those people, following the lead. And so I believe that impact, of course, is very important, but it's very hard to identify the impact in a lot of the strands of research, when it's not just some sort of research and development where we put to use an idea that is mostly there. So I believe, if you're a mathematician, everybody knows, Gauss nowadays, but I wonder how much Gauss was expecting to change the world and make everybody's life better when he worked a couple of hundred years ago. So impact is, of course, important, but there is also the danger of going for the low-hanging fruit, for the short-term gains, if we only focus on impact and we don't realize that fundamental research is essentially driven by curiosity and not by immediate rewards. So that makes us the best researcher is honest, humble, not very demanding, because if there is no immediate impact, we may not be so, financially successful. and I believe honesty is also important, to be clear what we expect from our work, because clearly nowadays there is a lot of competition for how we put to use our results. So if I'm a PhD student and I realize that my research is on a hot topic that is in demand from the industry, then there is also this kind of dilemma. Do I publish my results and share it with everyone else, or do I hold it back and try to benefit from this? And of course everybody's wants achievements. There's nothing bad in trying to monetize one's results, but there is a conflict of interest if you're trying to do both sometimes. For instance, to put this to take this to an extreme, you don't want to publish just your results that are just good enough to be published, but not your best results, because you're keeping them back in order to get very rich one day. The danger there is, of course, that these results will be published by somebody else a few months down the line, and you won't have the glory of your 15 minutes of glory of publishing these, and you may not even get that rich either. And if you're in this the maximum impact on yourself and your family, you have to be clear about this. So I'm not saying that research, academic research, and the interests of the industry cannot coexist, but sometimes it's a bit hard to play both roles at the same time. And we need to be honest, before in front of ourselves. What is it? Where our priorities are? And there's nothing wrong with taking some time off academia and working in the industry, getting some very valuable insights, then going back to academia and carrying on with the research that you try to where you try to make the lives of as many people as best as we can. So yes, I hope that didn't look too pompous, but this is my honest answer. I will probably not say anything different to what I've just said a couple of times, but I believe you have to keep your eyes open to see whether what you do is novel, is interesting. So there's the danger of being isolated and not knowing what's happening and maybe duplicating other people's work, which probably will still be very good for yourself, because of course you're developing your ability to work independently. And there is a reward in realizing that you, reproduced important results without actually knowing that somebody else achieved them. But if you want to be really productive, you want to know what's going on. Essentially, you want to keep yourself informed, and that means you want to maintain contacts. You want to maintain channels of communication, and as we all know, there will always be the personal side of things. So as you get to know people, as you get to talk to people, you get to learn about what they're doing, and that will save you time, and that will help you in your quest for discoveries and new achievements. And the other way around, you will find something which you will have a great idea, and you'll be very excited, and you'll go to that conference, and you will think, now when I finish, everybody will stand up and clap and say, this is fantastic. And then you'll see that if you're lucky, one or two people will ask you a question, and you will realize that there is an effort to be made in advertising your results, and there is nothing embarrassing or shameful about this, because there is so much information out there. And if you believe that your results are interesting and that they're valuable, you want to become a good, efficient communicator to convey that message and say, look, this is really useful, this is interesting. So you have to know who the stakeholders are that may benefit from your findings, and you want to talk to them, both to help them, but also to help yourself find out what it is that people actually need. So it is a two-way process, and keeping in touch with academia, keeping channels of communication with the industry, I guess, is the best or an excellent guarantee that what you do will be as interesting, as novel as possible, and at the same time as quickly adopted and as impactful as possible.